This week on Days of Our Lives, one violent confrontation could change everything. One buried secret may be ready to explode, and one desperate fight for control could destroy a family's future. Salem is heading into a week where panic rises fast, silence turns dangerous, and the people trying hardest to hold everything together may be the first to lose control. The week of March 16 through 20 feels especially suspenseful because multiple storylines are all moving in the same direction: pressure, fear, and desperate choices. That is what makes these spoilers feel bigger than ordinary soap drama. This is not just about surprise twists. It is about people being pushed into situations where one wrong move could trigger disaster. Someone is cornered. Someone is hiding the truth. Someone is willing to manipulate the future to get what they want. And once all of that starts colliding in Salem, control rarely lasts for long. The most immediate danger centers around Klaus. He is not in town to make empty threats or stir up trouble for fun. He is here to eliminate a problem, and that makes him especially dangerous. A man with a weapon and a deadline is far more unstable than one who still believes he has time. Liam has already made himself a target by giving the police Klaus' description in connection to the Demera kidnapping case. That gives Klaus motive, urgency, and every reason to act fast. And that is exactly why this storyline feels like it is ready to explode. What raises the stakes even more this week is the possibility that Ari gets caught in the middle of something far more dangerous than she expected. If Liam is with Ari when Klaus finally makes his move, this instantly becomes more than a crime story. It becomes personal, emotional, and frightening in a way that can hit viewers much harder. You can easily imagine how the scene could unfold. What starts as a quiet, ordinary moment suddenly turns tense when Liam notices something is wrong. Then Klaus appears, steps forward, and delivers a cold warning that changes everything. A line like, "Leave now," would be enough to turn the entire moment from uneasy to terrifying in seconds. And that is what makes Ari so important in this story. If Klaus forces her to run while Liam is left behind, Ari will not just be scared for herself. She will be terrified of what may happen to Liam the moment she is gone. That emotional panic is what gives this storyline real weight. So if Ari comes rushing into Gabby's arms in the town square, shaken and breathless, the moment could land hard. She may barely be able to explain herself, speaking in fragments, overwhelmed by fear. Gabby may have to piece it together in real time, and once she realizes Ari has escaped a truly dangerous situation, her own panic is going to rise fast. A line like, "Tell me exactly what happened right now," would fit perfectly here. Because from that point on, this is no longer just about comforting Ari. It becomes about taking action before it is too late. Gabby may call JJ, demand help, and push for immediate action. And that is how one terrifying encounter could quickly turn into a much larger Salem emergency. Once JJ and Sean get pulled into the hunt for Klaus, the story becomes even more dangerous. At that point, Salem is no longer dealing with a threat in theory. It is dealing with a desperate confrontation that could fall apart in seconds. The spoilers suggest JJ and Sean chase a criminal through the park while Liam stands nearby looking deeply unsettled. That already feels like the kind of setup that rarely ends well on Days of Our Lives. Add a weapon, high adrenaline, and split-second decisions, and suddenly the story becomes a perfect setup for tragedy. That is why Sean taking a bullet could become the week's most devastating turning point. The power of that moment would not only come from the gunshot itself, but from everything that follows. Sean is the kind of character whose pain spreads outward immediately. If he goes down, the emotional fallout will hit everyone connected to him. You can picture the chaos clearly. Footsteps pounding through the park, voices shouting, a sudden shot, and then stunned silence before someone screams, "Sean." In that instant, the story shifts from suspense to real fear. Nothing matters anymore except whether he survives. And if Sean's injuries are severe, this storyline could become even darker. It would no longer just be about stopping Klaus. It would become about survival, grief, and how far people are willing to go to save someone they love. That is where EJ's secret project suddenly becomes much more dangerous, not just as a scandal, but as temptation. If Belle is faced with losing Sean, EJ could use that desperation to make a chilling offer. A line like, "There may be another way to save him," would completely change the emotional direction of the story. That is what makes this spoiler so strong. It is not just about violence. It is about pain colliding with impossible choices, and the terrifying idea that love may push people further than they ever imagined. While the shooting storyline may deliver immediate danger, the Lexi secret may be building a different kind of explosion. This one is not driven by violence, but by silence, and by the emotional damage silence can cause when it lasts too long. From Paulina's point of view, keeping quiet makes sense. She does not want to give Abe and Theo hope unless she is sure EJ's plan will actually work. She may believe that staying silent is the safest and kindest choice. But in Salem, secrets that begin as protection rarely stay noble for long. The longer Paulina keeps Lexi's possible return hidden, the more painful the truth may become once it finally comes out. Because if Lexi really does awaken, the first response may not be pure joy. It may also be anger. Abe could feel blindsided, and Theo could feel completely shut out of one of the biggest moments of his life. That is what makes this storyline so compelling. The drama is not only in whether Lexi returns. It is in what Paulina's silence may cost before that happens. What should feel like a miracle could instantly become an emotional confrontation. You can already imagine the scene. Abe staring at Paulina in disbelief, Theo trying to process the truth, and Paulina struggling to explain that she only stayed quiet because she was afraid of giving them false hope. But explanations may not be enough in a moment like that. A line like, "You knew, and you said nothing," would hit especially hard. Because in that moment, Paulina may realize that even if her intentions were good, the pain her silence caused could be impossible to ignore. And that may be where the real drama begins, not with Lexi's return itself, but with the emotional fallout that comes the second the truth is revealed. Then we have Johnny, Chanel, and the adoption storyline, which may end up delivering the week's most manipulative conflict. What makes this story so compelling is that Johnny and Chanel are moving forward with hope, and on a soap. Hope is often the most dangerous emotion of all. The moment people start believing they are finally close to peace and stability is usually the moment a new threat appears. And in this case, that threat is Sophia. She no longer feels driven by heartbreak alone. What makes her especially dangerous now is that she may be moving beyond emotion into strategy. This is not just pain or confusion anymore. It feels more like obsession mixed with calculation, and that is exactly what makes the adoption storyline so tense. If Sophia pressures Melinda enough to manipulate her again, this could turn ugly very quickly. That is the real tension here. It is not just about whether Sophia wants Trey back, but how far she is willing to go to make that happen. Maybe she uses emotional blackmail. Maybe she creates legal chaos at the last minute. Maybe she interrupts a critical moment with accusations, threats, or some new attempt to throw everything off balance. A line like, "You really thought I was just going to let this happen?" would fit this situation perfectly. Because Sophia may not need a perfect plan to cause damage. She may only need the right timing, enough pressure, and one opening. And if Melinda gives even an inch, that could be all Sophia needs to create a serious snag. That is what makes this storyline feel so volatile. Johnny and Chanel are hoping for closure, but Sophia seems determined to turn closure into conflict. And even if she does not completely stop the adoption, she may still leave emotional damage behind that lasts far longer than the legal fight itself. What makes the week of March 16 through 20 feel especially strong is that all of these storylines are connected by the same emotional pattern. Everywhere in Salem, someone wants stability and gets chaos instead. Someone wants certainty and gets fear. Someone wants truth and gets silence. Someone wants peace and gets sabotage. That is why these spoilers feel so effective. They are not just random twists piled on top of each other. They are building a week where every major storyline seems designed to hit characters at the exact moment they think they are finally close to security. And that is where soap drama becomes most powerful. A shooting could leave one life hanging in the balance. A resurrection secret could blow apart an entire family. An adoption finalization could turn into emotional warfare because one person refuses to let go. Each storyline is powerful on its own, but together they create something even stronger. They create a week where emotional pressure is coming from every direction, and by the end of it, Salem may not just be dealing with surprises. It may be dealing with emotional wreckage. That is the real suspense here. It is no longer just about what happens next. It is about who will still be standing once all these secrets, threats, and desperate choices finally collide. So the real question for this week is not just who gets exposed, who gets stopped, or who gets what they want. It is this: when fear, silence, and obsession all hit Salem at once, who survives the fallout, and who loses everything just when they thought they were finally safe? Because by the time this week is over, one act of violence could leave lasting scars, one hidden truth could change a family forever, and one desperate attempt to take control could destroy the future someone was trying to protect. And in Salem, that is when the real drama begins.